My girlfriend vanished the day before I planned to propose, then I found out she'd been with my brother, so I took cold revenge that shattered their life. I'm 29 years old, male, and I've been single for the past 5 years because my girlfriend disappeared from my life altogether 5 years ago. Since then, I haven't even tried to talk to any other woman because I've still held out hope that someday she might come back to me. I was with my girlfriend since senior year of high school, so she and I were together for almost 6 years before she vanished. We stayed together throughout college, even though we could only meet once or twice a month because of the distance. My girlfriend and I had a happy relationship, at least in my head, and on my 24th birthday, I was about to ask her to marry me, surrounded by our friends and family. But then, the day before my birthday, she literally disappeared. She said she was going to be late coming home from work, so I waited all night, but she never came back. I made countless calls and sent at least 100 texts, but there was just no response. I even tried to get in touch with her friends and family members, but they'd all blocked me. Our common friends had no idea where she could be, and some of them just told me to forget about her. So, even if they knew, they didn't let me know. I couldn't find any of her social media accounts either, and it was like she just disappeared without a word overnight. I still don't know if she knew that I was about to pop the question the next day or if the timing of her disappearance just lined up, but that was it. She was gone, and there was nothing I could do about it. I even considered going to the cops to file a missing person report but changed my mind at the last moment because she wasn't missing. She just didn't want to be found by me. I made a lot of fake accounts on social media under different names to find her, but with no success. She probably either deleted her accounts or was using some other name, just like me. Whatever the case was, she was untraceable, and eventually, I had to give up because I was emotionally exhausted trying to look for her despite knowing that she didn't want me to find her for whatever reason. I honestly believe that she was happy with me, and she sure played the part when we were together. So, instead of moving on with my life, I chose to wait for her to come back, if not to get back with me, then at least so that she could explain what went wrong, and I could have some answers. I did try to make things work with a couple of other women and went out on a few dates, but I just found myself thinking about my ex-girlfriend whenever I was out with anyone else, so I stopped because it was just too painful for me. For almost 4 whole years, I haven't said yes to or asked out anyone on a date because I just couldn't. I'd be fine otherwise, but every time I'd even consider going out on a date, my ex's face would pop up in my head like a warning sign, so I just gave up on it. For 5 years, I've been waiting for her, and I knew it was futile, but I didn't know what else to do. I started going to therapy 3 years ago, and it helped me deal with my feelings and cope with the situation healthily, so I'm not always moping or wallowing. But I wouldn't say that I've forgotten about her. I know it sounds pathetic, but I was really serious about her, and I couldn't believe that she just disappeared without an explanation. But 2 weeks ago, I overheard a conversation between my brother, who is 33 years old, male, and my mother, who is 62 years old, female, when we were visiting her. My brother doesn't live here. He moved to Canada for work when he was 22 and has stayed there ever since. He comes back twice a year for a couple of weeks, but that's about it. This time, though, he's been here for at least a month now because our mother is really sick. She's been diagnosed with heart disease, and it's serious. So, while my brother was supposed to go back 2 weeks ago, he decided to stay on. My brother and I have been on good terms, but we've never been close per se, and it's mostly been because of the distance. We used to be friends as kids, but then he left for college, and we lost touch. Then he went away to Canada and built a life for himself there, and I stayed here, so there wasn't much scope for us to ever reconnect. But we'd been getting along well ever since he came back, and it was nice to have him here, even if it was for our mother's sake. Last week, I went over to my mother's place to drop off some soup for my dad because he'd said he'd be late, and I had a spare set of keys as well so that my mother wouldn't have to come to the door to open it. I went in quietly and was about to enter my mom's room to check up on her, but I stopped in my tracks and froze when I heard my mom and brother in there talking about my ex. My ex had a really unique name, and we didn't know anyone else by that name, so I was sure that it was her that my mom was asking about. She asked my brother when he was bringing her and the kids down here because she wanted to see them once since she was getting too old and sick to travel now. My brother told her that they'd been trying to think of a way to bring them here without alerting me and said that it's just too risky, which is why they haven't been flown in yet. As soon as my brother said that they were trying to avoid me, I was sure that this was my ex he was referring to, and for a few seconds, I just stood there silently because I couldn't make sense of what I was hearing right now. I left without a word, and once I got home, I decided to log into one of the fake accounts I'd made 5 years ago to do some digging, just to confirm what I already knew. I'd always searched for my ex-girlfriend's name on social media but never my brother because he told me that he hated social media and wasn't active anywhere, and it never occurred to me either that he might be lying because I'd never even imagined that he and my ex might be linked. I tried to find him by his actual name but couldn't, so then I used his nickname that our parents called him, and luckily, he had a public account on Instagram with around 200 followers. He must have blocked me because I'd never seen this account. I scrolled through it to find several photos of him with my ex and a kid who looked like the spitting image of my ex, apart from the eyes, which looked like my brother's. I think I must have just sat there and wept for an hour because this is where she'd been all along, and everyone had known, and they'd helped my brother cover up instead of telling me the truth for 5 years. My own family had been gaslighting me, even though they knew exactly where my girlfriend was. It made me sick to think of all the times my parents tried to comfort me when I'd go crying to them in the initial days of my heartbreak. They knew all along but never told me, and it was sickening. And as for my brother, I couldn't even believe that he had the audacity to steal the life that was meant to be mine from me and then come back here and pretend to be my friend every single year after that. I was disgusted, and I just wanted to cut them out of my life entirely. I didn't want to see any of their faces ever again. But before I did that, I decided to leave them all a little message because I wasn't going to just disappear like my ex did. I wanted them to know that I knew what they'd done, and I was never going to forgive them for it. They'd ruined my life, and for 5 years, they'd refused to do anything to help fix things either. Oh, I'd also found my ex's account from my brother's account, and she'd used a completely different name, so obviously, I hadn't been able to find her earlier. The funny thing was, this name was one of the nicknames I used to call her way back when we first started dating, but she told me that she hated it, so I stopped, and it never even occurred to me to try searching for that name either. So, make of that what you will. But I sent everyone the same message, and it was just one line. I told them that I knew what they'd done, and all I wanted to ask was why. That's it, because that's all I really wanted to know. These people were my family, my home, and they were supposed to be the ones helping me out in times of trouble, but instead, they'd chosen to hide things from me, lied to me, and just made a total fool out of me. I thought that I'd feel better after sending that text, but I didn't. So, I ended up calling up a few of my friends from back in high school, went to the nearest bar, and got so drunk that I had to be carried back home. I was in such a state that I didn't even go to work for the next 2 days. It wasn't just the hangover or the binge drinking but the pain and betrayal. Years had passed, and nobody thought that they owed me the truth or an explanation or some closure at the very least. It felt like I was going to drive myself crazy thinking about all that was going on, and so I didn't even check the messages that my family had sent me in response to what I texted them. I'd also texted my ex on her Instagram account because I didn't have her number, but she didn't respond to me at all until yesterday. She sent back 2 paragraphs explaining that she was married and even had a child now, so the fact that I even found her account and texted her was really inappropriate. She told me that she didn't owe me an explanation or closure, and neither did my brother, so I should just forget about her. She also told me that if 5 years hadn't been enough for me to be able to move on, then maybe I was the problem and not her. So, instead of being a creep and texting her asking why she'd left me, I should get myself checked because there's clearly something wrong with me. That's what she told me. I didn't know what exactly I'd been expecting, but this was not it. I absolutely didn't think that she would blow up at me like this because all I asked was for an explanation and nothing else. It's not like I was asking her to get back with me because I knew she was happy with her life now, and I wanted the same for myself, which is why I'd asked her a really simple question just so that I could move on myself. I didn't consider the repercussions of this, and I still don't know if I was actually wrong for asking her to explain why she'd run away with my brother instead of just coming clean to me and actually breaking up with me like a decent person. The rest of my family keeps trying to call me, but I'm not interested in talking to them, and the few common friends that we used to have are no longer part of my life anyway. So, I don't really know whom to talk to about any of this. So, am I the asshole for texting my ex-girlfriend after I found out that she'd been with my brother these past 5 years after she disappeared without an explanation? I realized that, even though I wasn't exactly wrong for texting my ex and asking her for an explanation, I did realize that it was all pointless. She was just a horrible human being who cheated on me with my brother despite being with me for 6 years and then left without a word to start a family with him. That was how it was, and I needed to accept that this knowledge was all the closure I was going to get. For the first couple of days before she texted back, I didn't know how to feel because it was all so overwhelming, but now I feel considerably better regarding this situation. I'm glad that my ex said what she did because it just made me realize that I dodged a bullet because she was the problem here and not me. I'd given that relationship my all, but she'd preferred my brother over me, and so did the rest of my family, apparently. I'd lost my girlfriend way back anyway, but I had to relive that all over again when I found out about her and my brother, and this time the loss was much greater because not only did I feel like I was losing my girlfriend, but I was also losing my family. They'd betrayed me and continued to betray me every single day for 5 whole years. I swear I wouldn't even wish that upon my worst enemy because I'd been nothing short of an emotional wreck these past few days. Even my therapist seemed surprised when I told her what had happened, so it's pretty bad. I still haven't responded to my family, and I don't think I'm even going to read their texts because there's just no point. There's nothing that they can say or do at this point to make things right, not anymore. I know my mother's sick right now, but after what happened, I don't know if I'll ever be able to forgive her. The only thing I can do right now is try to move on. My asshole brother came to my house today to have a civilized discussion about our situation. That's what he said while waiting outside my house, calling me immature and juvenile because I refused to let him in. It's been 3 whole weeks since I overheard my mom and brother talking and found out the truth. Since then, they'd all been texting me to try and get me to talk to them, but I hadn't even opened their texts to check out what they'd been saying, let alone respond to them. So, as a last resort, my brother came to talk to me today. I didn't even understand why they were all so desperate to get me to talk to them because, as far as I was aware, my family only cared about my brother, or else they would have been honest with me from the beginning. So, there was no need for them to act so desperate now just so that I wouldn't cut them off because I knew they didn't care about me as much as they did about my brother. My brother kept trying to reason with me. He kept telling me that he and my ex had fallen in love on one of his visits back home, and they tried to stay apart, but it didn't work, so they just had to run away. My parents kept it a secret so that my feelings wouldn't be hurt. The plan was to let me know once I found someone as well so that I'd at least be able to have some emotional support. I don't know why he thought that would be a better option than just being honest with me from the beginning. Imagine if I had actually found someone in these past 5 years, and then they came clean to me about what had happened. That would have 100% ruined my existing relationship at the time. Listening to him tell me about their original plan, I was relieved that I didn't find anyone, and I found out the truth by myself. After a while, I finally snapped at him and told him to leave me alone, or else I'd have to call the police to force him to go, and I really didn't want to do that. So, he lost his cool as well, and since he'd been trying to convince me for almost half an hour, standing out in the cold, he told me that the only reason he was even trying to get me to talk to him was that our mother was extremely apologetic, and all this stress about me not speaking to them anymore was worsening her health condition. If Mom hadn't been sick, he wouldn't even have been here to talk to me and would have happily continued to live his life while I struggled to deal with the pain of it all. My brother truly is a piece of work, but at least he did leave after telling me that he didn't care if I spoke to him or not. But Mom wanted me to talk to her, and had it not been for Mom, he would have even flown his wife and son here just to rub it in my face. The taunt really got me, and I almost wanted to open the door and beat him to a pulp, but I refrained. I told him to go to hell. He cussed at me, and it took all the self-control I possessed for me to hold back. Then he went away, and I've been trying to distract myself by watching Netflix, but I just can't get his taunting voice out of my head. I can't believe that my own family can be this cruel. It was bad enough that they cheated, lied, and betrayed me, and now he's here at my door just to make a mockery out of my pain. That's a new low. I don't know what to do about the situation with my mother, though. Obviously, I don't want her health to get worse, regardless of what they did to me. Maybe I'll have to talk to her at some point because I don't want a guilty conscience if her condition gets worse. I'm sure the rest of my family won't let me live it down if that happens and will hold me responsible for it. So, I might just go visit her whenever my brother and father aren't home. I finally met my mother and talked to her yesterday, and I'm actually thrilled right now. It has been since I met her because I made her promise me that she and Dad were going to change their respective wills and leave most of whatever they had to me. I've heard that if they left everything to me, it could potentially become grounds for my brother to contest the will, so I'm making sure that they leave him as little as they can. It took a while to persuade her, but I made it very clear to my mother that the only way I would agree to keep in touch with her was if she promised me this, or else she could forget about ever speaking to me again. I had to push very hard, but she did agree to it eventually, and our family lawyer is going to come over the day after tomorrow so I can personally witness the rewriting of the wills. And guess what? This is going to be a secret that I'm going to keep for so long. My parents had kept secrets from me for my brother's sake, and now the tables were about to turn. He would know how it felt to be betrayed by your own family just because they wanted to favor one brother over the other. It's manipulative and cruel of me, but they didn't spare my feelings when they were all covering up my brother and girlfriend's affair, so I don't think I owe them any kindness or compassion at all, not a single one of them. It's significant too because my parents are relatively well off, and it's a considerable amount of money that we're talking about here. It finally feels like I got him back, and I got him back good. People think living well is the best revenge, but this comes kind of close too, if you ask me. Yesterday, when I met my mother, I was skeptical about what was going to happen, and I didn't really have a plan as such. I didn't know what to expect, but at least my brother and my father weren't home. It was just us. As soon as I entered the house, my mother burst into tears and hugged me and started apologizing while talking about how much she regretted her actions, but it just didn't hold any meaning to me. I felt empty and numb, even while she was crying, and only comforted her out of habit and not love. She then ended up confessing that she and my dad had known about their affair all along after they caught my ex with my brother in his room one night while he was visiting. My girlfriend and I had been together for almost 4 years by that point, so this was 2 years before they eloped. I was in the other room and had no clue, but my brother begged them to keep it quiet, and so they did because they knew they were in love. They all meant to tell me, but they just couldn't get the timing right. And then I decided to tell my parents that I was proposing. They told my brother, and within days, they'd arranged a flight for my girlfriend to move to Canada to avoid the proposal altogether. While I searched for her like a madman back then, they'd warned all their friends, relatives, and literally anyone who was likely to talk to me to never speak of my ex's whereabouts, and that was how they made sure I never got to know. I must say that my family was quite impressive when it comes to acting, and I'd nominate them all for Oscars if I could because they played the perfect parents, comforted me day and night, and pretended to be there for me. And behind my back, they attended my brother's wedding and their baby shower and would often take vacations, which just meant that they were going to visit my brother and my ex but would then Photoshop themselves into other locations just to fool me. They went to such extreme and insane lengths just to fool me. As my mother poured out the truth, hoping her confession would mend the chasm between us, her words only deepened my sense of betrayal and fury. The revelation of their years-long deception ignited a storm within me, and I couldn't hold back. I unleashed my pent-up anger, letting her know how profoundly their lies had wounded me. In that heated moment, a sudden idea struck me: if I couldn't reclaim the emotional security I'd lost, I could at least demand something tangible to offset the pain. I told her that if she truly wanted to atone, she'd need to revise her will, ensuring I'd inherit the lion's share, 90%, of my parents' estate, leaving my brother with nothing. It wasn't just about the money, it was about reclaiming some semblance of justice after years of being deceived by those I trusted most. The thought of my brother, who'd stolen the life I'd envisioned, receiving nothing felt like a small victory in a battle I'd already lost. I made it clear to my mother that she was the only family member I'd consider keeping in my life, and that was solely because of her illness. Her face fell, a mix of regret and resignation, but she should count herself fortunate that I even agreed to maintain contact after their collective betrayal. I'm not certain if I'll stick to that decision. My heart wavers, torn between lingering duty and the sting of their actions. The weight of their secrecy, the elaborate facade they maintained while I suffered in silence, still haunts me. I spent years searching for answers, clinging to hope, only to discover a truth more painful than I could have imagined. My brother and my ex, entwined in a life built on my heartbreak, deserve each other. I, however, deserve more, a life free from their shadows, where I can rebuild what was shattered. I no longer crave their explanations or apologies. The truth, however brutal, has set me free. I'm ready to walk away, to seek something better, something untainted by their deceit. I'm done carrying the burden of their choices.